Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have Sediah Hamzah with us this week. She is a health and holistic coach and owner of Meals Made Easy. Welcome, Sediah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I was thinking, I've known you for quite a long time. I actually met you through my partner, Chris, and the work you
Yeah.
guys are doing in the community. How did
Yeah.
you've always been rooted in community. Obviously, I know that from the experiences I've shared, and I follow you on social media, but how did you shift to this business? And can you tell us about yourself?
So originally I went to college, the University of Akron. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in child and family development. Um, as you can see now, I've kind of shifted throughout the years. What made me make that shift was being a stay-at-home mom. When I got pregnant with my daughter, my son was already 15 months, but when I got pregnant with my daughter, I unfortunately could not gain any weight throughout my entire pregnancy. And the doctors were telling me things that I should eat. Basically, they said, eat anything and everything you want. Hamburgers,
Wow.
try to load up on the dairy. And I was thinking to myself, that doesn't seem like that's healthy. And at that time, I really didn't know or understand healthy. I just knew what I liked to eat and what my body was craving. And at that time when I was pregnant with her, I was just craving a lot of fruits and salads, and that's all I wanted to eat. So while I was pregnant with her, that's what the doctors were telling me, and I did not listen to them. And she came out and she was healthy and fine. But as she got older, we noticed that she wasn't growing. And they labeled her as failure to thrive, which really got me interested in the dynamics of health education and why my daughter wasn't thriving and why they told me that I could no longer breastfeed her and I had to put her on formula. So that's really where my journey began.
Wow, I did not know all this, and I
Yeah.
have so many thoughts hearing you talk. First of all, I think it's so powerful to know your body and how free that is to listen to yourself and to know yourself so well.
Yeah.
So that's extremely inspiring. And then, so
Yeah. I
the
tell
doc,
my clients to,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry. Oh, I'm so being a health coach, I tell my clients all the time that they should journal how they feel after meals, just so they know how their body reacted to what they just ate.
Wow, that's incredible. I really like this idea. It's giving me a lot of thoughts about I've been exploring somatic therapy and listening to your body and the trauma that it has and where do you hold tension. And so I really like this idea that you're incorporating it with food and diet.
Yeah.
Was it the doctors that is that a medical term, failure to thrive?
Yeah, it's a medical term. They also have labeled her as SGA or something like that, but it's basically it's when you're a baby in the womb and you're not growing at the same rate an average baby was. So for instance, when she was born, she was 18 inches, and for 39-week-old baby, she should have been 18 and a half inches. So right then and there, they just continued to start labeling her as failure to thrive, even though she was to us, she was healthy, she was eating. She's a smart little girl. I mean, people would see her at 1 and she was already talking, 3-word sentences, and people were just like, how old is she?
Yeah.
Even now they'll be like, is she 2 or 1? And I'm like, no, she's 3. It's just 3 and she's 22. She just got to 22 pounds and we were ecstatic about it.
Oh
But
my goodness.
she's such a sweet little girl. She's sassy too.
Wonder where she gets that from.
I know.
Oh, I think it's so interesting that they labeled her failure to thrive. I have a lot of issues with that.
Yeah.
But it's exciting and hopeful to hear that's not true at all. She's thriving. She has amazing parents, and she sounds just as independent and strong as you are.
Oh, if not more.
So you wanted to do this and this was personal, and then it kind of like became more political for you and like building a business to help others. So like what's the first step you took? Like how did you know that you were going to be able to like, you know, build this business that we've seen on the news now? And like you're up in Cleveland, but I'm telling you, if you ever can deliver to where I'm at, these meals are amazing and they make it accessible to eat healthy, because a lot of us, like for me, it's about convenience.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically I started it out of my kitchen. I was just like, I just want to make healthy meals for people. I just want people to eat better. Like, and I was thinking to myself, it's so easy for us to go to a fast food restaurant and get like a quarter pounder and it only be like $2, you know? And I'm just like, but what is that doing to you once you ingest it? And the major thing that we don't think about because we can't see it is like what our insides are doing and how they feel, because it's not something you can readily see. And then damage to your body over time, you only see it once you go to the doctors and they finally tell you like you have diabetes or high blood pressure or hypertension or stuff like that. So I just wanted to be of service and like try to give people healthier options however I could. I never thought my business would ever make it to TV or people would want to buy my food, because I'm not technically a chef, like a taught chef. I didn't go to school for it or anything like that. I went to school for holistic health and wellness coaching, but cooking is just something that I've just learned to do over the years, especially being from the South. So I just don't cook the food from the South.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love that you're bringing in that tradition and that cuisine and experience. And a lot of communities lack that access. So I think it's amazing what you've put together. Can you describe like their little like meal kits, essential, or like pre-made
Yeah.
meals? That,
Yep, everything's pre-made. So basically, I put out a menu every week on Thursdays, and my clients will order every Friday. And there's 5 menu options, but I open it up to my clients to make decisions based off of their own diet. Say for instance, there's a carb included with one of my meals and you aren't necessarily for carbs, or you want like less of a carb or anything like that. I'll do it how you want your meals to be. Or you can choose something from off my previous menu from like a week before that you liked a lot and you want to get it again. So I try to make it open and accessible.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And, you know, I've been thinking a lot because we're all quarantined and I feel like I've been cooking more than ever. And it is so challenging. I don't know how you do this all the time. But do you have ideas like how do we stay healthy? How do we prepare nutritious meals for our families? And not just while we're quarantined, but this is, you know, going to be a long process of recovery, and
Yeah.
food is medicine. Can you give us some ideas?
So a major thing that I tell everyone to do is to meal prep for yourself, because if you have these meals made in advance, or even for instance when you're going grocery shopping and you picked up vegetables, you want to go home right away and you want to chop up those vegetables. So then you have it ready for yourself whenever you're ready to cook them, and it doesn't seem like it's so much work when it's time to start cooking, when you gotta like skin the carrots and like chop them up. You're already over it, like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. So meal prepping is something that I tell a lot of people to do. Just prep your meals in advance, because I know we don't like to be wasteful either. So if you know I have a meal already cooked at home, I don't need to order in.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of even just like preparing some of the ingredients ahead of time, because
Yeah.
that can be like a barrier to cooking a meal, as it just feels intimidating. And we're all under
Yeah.
a lot of stress. So breaking into those small steps. And then I've seen like on your social media, like how you rearrange your refrigerator even so that your kids are nudged towards healthier choices.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it was
I
like
like to put things that are at their level, because they've gotten to the age where they like to open up their refrigerator and just go in there and grab stuff. So our refrigerator is clear, so they can see basically everything that's in there. And I put like my daughter's yogurts right by where she can grab them. She's not that tall, so she needs a chair. So I'll just put things healthier options for them to grab. and it's all about tricking them too into, I mean, as parents, we have to trick them into eating healthier things. My kids are super picky eaters and they're vegetarian, so it kind of makes it a little bit harder. But some tips for that is, my son is a avid TV watcher, so we try to make sure that he watches educational things. And he came to me one day and he said, Mom, I really want to try some peppers. And it was because there was a TV show that taught him about bell peppers and vegetables, and he was so excited to try them.
Yeah, that is so amazing. And like the influence that kids have from the media. And I've seen kind of the same thing. I don't know if you're referring to Daniel Tiger or not, but
Oh yeah, that he loves him too. I think
yeah.
the one I'm talking about is like, there's like a galaxy guy, like he's like a little robot dude, but he turns food into art.
Oh wow, I'll have to check that out. That's really
Yeah,
good.
it's really cool.
Because the opposite can sometimes happen too is, Issa will be on YouTube and like Brian's toy review is talking about McDonald's and like, oh shoot, because now she wants McDonald's. So, how can we find those nudges online to encourage our kids and our sometimes picky eaters?
Yeah, I think sometimes the schools do a good job with that. My son's teacher, actually, I have my son's plant right here, bean plant. So he started growing that when he was in school, and ever since school's been out, he's been making sure to water it like every day. And he's been super excited, like, I have a bean growing. Are we gonna taste it? So just trying to make things more fun for the kids when it comes to trying new foods.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're like incorporating the whole process,
Yeah.
showing from the very beginning and what it looks like and where it comes from.
Yeah.
Like, surprise! It doesn't come from the grocery store.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And I know like the title of the series is about like growing food justice, and we've had a lot of farmers talk on this, but I really appreciate the perspective you're bringing on the other end of it is the consumption. And so I want to shift gears and talk about the theme being growing food justice, and how do you define food justice and what does that matter to you?
So I define food justice for me as just having accessible foods readily for everyone, and not just particular groups of people. Where we live, personally, it's our urban area, so the closest grocery store that we have is a Save-A-Lot. If you're familiar with Save-A-Lots, I don't know if Columbus or where you live has a Save-A-Lot.
No.
It's not the best. It's very, I mean, there's romaine noodles, everything's mostly processed. And a lot of the things that I teach my clients is when you go to the grocery store to shop on the perimeter of the grocery store, because that's where everything is fresh is at. And in the middle aisles is the processed foods. So at Save-A-Lot, it's mostly just processed. And that's what's sad, is because certain neighborhoods don't have the Whole Foods, and certain neighborhoods don't have the Trader Joe's. And that's what's unfortunate when it comes to food justice, is because certain people, particularly Black and brown people, don't have the equality that other people have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in like food justice circles, we've heard a lot of people for years talk about food security and making sure people have access to food. And now, and they've kind of described these communities as food deserts in the past.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that shift to be talked about as food apartheids,
Mm-hmm.
because a desert is like natural, right? Like that's a naturally occurring thing. Apartheids are designed by a system to cut off communities, and that's what we see in communities all across Ohio, and the communities that we've shared throughout this series is kind of a deliberate decision making on who gets access and who doesn't.
Yeah.
And the other point is, like, Sediah, you have a radical history in your family. Your last name is Hamzah. I know the background of your family, and I know how you all have supported Black liberation. And if you're comfortable sharing, how do you relate this work to centering Black families and Black businesses and opposing racism in the food system?
Yeah, so my husband's family is Hamzah, and so that name was given to him by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the 60s, he gave our community grocery stores, restaurants, there were schools, and it was all centered around the Black community. He even wrote a book called How to Eat to Live. So in this book, there's recipes about Asiatic bean soup. He's taught us about the turmeric root, which is an amazing root. There was so many things that the Hamzah family has taught me, even just being a part of it even as a kid, going to the mosque and eating things that I wasn't even privy to growing up in my own family. And then when it comes to the liberation of like Black people and Black businesses, we just have always been the type of people that want to support our own people as much as we possibly can, especially going through this pandemic. Like literally everything I've been buying when I do buy things has been from Black businesses, because I know how hard it is to even keep businesses going throughout this time.
Well, I love that. I never knew that book, and like I've heard a little, like to be honest with you, I am not studied like Black history that much. Obviously, I went to public schools. They didn't talk about Black history. And so I'm in a class right now. Today is like my finals day and my first introduction to African and African American history. And I had learned for the first time that like that whole movement included giving grocery stores and teaching people how to eat. I think it's powerful when you said about like seeing your own people in the food system, and especially around agriculture, which has such a dirty past and a violent past. To participate that and reclaim that is really liberating.
Yeah.
Have you thought about farming? Have you thought about like what it would look like to be growing your own?
You know what? So we're in the process of starting our very first garden. We tried last year, but the deer got to it. But this year we're gardening in our backyard. Our backyard is about like an acre big. So we're starting our garden. We're super excited about it. I don't know much about farming, but I knew I wanted to like be able to go in my backyard and just pull up some like fresh vegetables and fruits. And I want my kids to be able to experience that. Because growing up, my father always had a garden in our backyard, and my grandmother always had a garden in her backyard. And my family is actually from Alabama, so having gardens, and my great uncle actually lived on a farm, so it's in our family. It just wasn't always passed down to the next person.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people. And I relate, like usually we do like starter plants. We don't do from seed because I don't have the patience.
Right.
But I'm inspired because the folks that have been in this series are offering a lot of great advice, and maybe there's a way, like if I can connect any of you to them, if you have questions, or hopefully you'll watch some of the other episodes, but that's really great. I guess we kind of talked about the situation in Cleveland, but I didn't know if there was anything more you wanted to elaborate on what the landscape is like there in your neighborhood. You talked about Save a Lot. Are you seeing any like local movements for better food access or?
So yeah, actually my son's school is directly across the street from us, and this is his first year ever going to school. And what I noticed with the school system is you have two different spectrums. One, the children are going to school and they're eating, and that might be the only meals that they're getting throughout the day. But the other spectrum is that they're going to school and they're eating, and it's very unhealthy what they are eating. So my experience has been with his school is that it takes a lot of effort from a parent to get better options. For instance, my son being vegetarian, I had to get several doctor's notes to explain to them that he could not have milk, that he couldn't have chicken or any of the meat products, and yet they still put it on his plate for him every single day.
Oh my God.
And one day he even came home and told me he ate a chicken nugget, and I was just like, did you really? And it kind of makes me nervous because he's never experienced foods like that. But I've partnered with his school. I've went there and they've had days where there's like a health day. And there's a partner with their school. I can't remember her name right now, but she partners with the school and she comes in and she teaches on health as well. The only problem with that is that you don't have the parent involvement that you should have. So every time I've been over there to do a health program or teach some healthy meal, we've not had the same response from families being supportive of it or being excited to learn about it. So that's kind of a hard path that we're on right now with the whole process.
Yeah, that's so challenging. And I think about that a lot with Isa, and the exposure to schools play such a powerful role in our children's life, and
Yeah.
it could influence them one way or another. And I've seen some movements and there's some organizations that support healthier cafeteria options, but yeah, definitely like with the diet preferences, being vegetarian or even some students that are gluten-free can be difficult to accommadate.
Yeah.
What is there a decision that you made intentionally to make him vegetarian, or was it like personal?
I think just so when I had my son, and they give you the stages of when you can start introducing foods to them and what types of foods. When it got to the meat for us, we were just like, I don't know if I actually want to introduce him to foods, because we were thinking about his little small belly and how that little belly could process eating animal foods. Even as an adult, it takes us about 52 hours to just digest, one meal. So I was just thinking, like, his little small belly can't possibly be able to ingest that food and be okay. So from there, we were just like, I think we're just going to wait. And each year would go on and we would just be like, I think I'm just going to wait. And now we're just at the point where like, well, whenever they decide, that they want to have meat, they will. And they'll tell us now, they'll go to our family's house and say, we don't eat animals. They're our friends. So
That's so cute. And I love it because it goes back to the beginning of your story of like knowing your body and teaching your kids that they have control over their bodies and that they're powerful and they know themselves.
yeah.
And just teaching that early on is so inspiring to me.
Yes.
So do you have any suggestions about folks that want to make meals from local producers, or if they're in a neighborhood that maybe only has a Save-A-Lot or they access food through a food pantry? Are there ways that you would have suggestions for making meals from those ingredients?
Yeah, I think a really easy way is just taking whatever you're getting from food pantries and just looking on Pinterest. It's super easy to come with recipes from Pinterest. I go to Pinterest a lot to find new things to make because there's so many different avenues you can go with the foods that they give you. Recently, I worked with the food pantry, and some of the items that they got were like split peas. And I'm sure people are like, what the heck do you do with split peas? So I came up with a recipe that you make split pea soup with potatoes and carrots and some chicken. And it literally takes 40 minutes to make. And then you have leftovers for the next day.
Yeah, that's a really good example and a good point about, even though it feels like a long time to make one meal, if it's enough that can spread you out for 2 days, then really that's like 20 minutes for just that one. And before we close our time together, are there other best practices that you want to share about creating your business, raising a family, or preparing healthy meals?
Yeah, so one thing about when you're eating your meals, I just want people to remember something that I try to stick to, is that when you're preparing your meal throughout the day, make sure that 80% of your plate is fresh and it comes without a label, meaning that things on your plate are not all processed. You're not eating chicken with mashed potatoes with, like boxed mashed potatoes and I don't know, like corn or something, because it comes with a label. It's not fresh. It didn't come from the ground. You want to make sure that you're eating leafy greens. You want to make sure that your plate is colorful and not just all one tone. So those are things that I want people to remember when they're looking at their plate every day, to make sure that it has some color to it.
Yeah, I love that advice. I've heard like the advice of half your plate be fruits or vegetables, but I like this idea that you're proposing as like 80% of your plate to be something that's not processed, because we can load
Yeah,
up all kinds of like processed vegetables and different recipes, but that's different than just eating the original form.
exactly.
So if folks are like wanting to learn more about your business, maybe they want to donate or contribute in some way, how do they contact you? Where should they
So
go
you
on?
can follow me on Instagram, millsmadeeasy.sh. I have a website, which is millsmadeeasysh.org. Or you can also go to my Facebook account, which is just my name, Sediah Hamzah.
Yay. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.